like that, and then I'll add it in and do it.
Recap: we've got Phil Nightingale, Mel Hambelton, Scott Gepkin, interviewed MX with Mega Camp, Evan Morantz, pro rider, Jeff Crusher. All three of them are pro riders. Jeff Crusher, obviously pro rider. Jeff's also promoting the next event here, which is 2SI International. I'm sure he'll talk about that.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Other Hood Show. And yes, we're at Bar to Bar. Yeah, it's a little different. We got a bunch of motorcycle guys around us. So we're out of Bar to Bar for the Mega Camp.
Mega Camp,
Scott?
yes, sir.
Scott Gepkin is kind of, you're the head dude of all this stuff, right?
Yeah,
The
ringleader.
Training guys, putting them ready to go and everything, right?
Yeah, we've got about 65 athletes lined up to come ride. That's it. Yeah, just it. Between us 4 coaches. So we've got a really good group, all ages from little 50 riders, 4-year-olds all the way up to, we got some vet guys that are my dad's age, you know what I mean, out here doing it. So we've got a wide range of everybody. It should be really, really good.
It's going to be fun, right?
It's going to be a lot of fun.
So kind of tell everybody what's happening. You're training riders, getting them better, all that kind of good stuff, but kind of give them a rundown of what's happening. And
yeah, so it's 3 days. Mega Camp is 3 days. We do, we start with the basics. We run through all the basics. Really, the first day is a lot of basic technique, just making sure you're fine-tuned. Even if you've done 20 different training schools and you have great technique, we always touch on it. And then we spend the rest of the weekend building on it from there, on what we're going to build, on getting faster and improving skill level, improving speed. There's a lot of big regional races coming up. And so a lot of these kids here this weekend are here to train and prepare for that. So we've got a lot of stuff in store to get them dialed in and ready to go.
all right, a lot of good things happening. It's a call-in show, 316-462-3673. Yes, it's normally about your car, breaking down and understand your car more, but today we want to talk about riding motorcycles out here at Bar to Bar on the motocross track and all kinds of exciting stuff. Got a couple extra guys here with us. Kevin?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your situation and what happens here and everything else, Kevin.
So I am one of the trainers here. We have 4 of us, and pretty much where my background is, I'm currently in the professional racing scene, and I'm just kind of here to give my advice. Obviously, I've trained with kids before and whatnot, and just kind of give my 2 cents on these kids that are trying to come up to get to the next level, what I've done, what I've experienced, and stuff like that. So just bringing my expertise of currently being in the racing situation.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, you're on the pro circuit.
Yes.
So tell our listeners, probably a lot of them don't realize what that really amounts to, what that entails.
So the best way to explain it is the stuff that you can watch on TV is what I'm currently racing. So Supercross and motocross, which is more or less the pinnacle of our sport here in the United States, is what I am currently racing. It's what we just got done with in Supercross, and then our outdoor season, my outdoor season, is actually going to start in 2 weeks. So just
outdoor and indoor. So
yes. So indoor is football stadiums, baseball stadiums.
Okay.
So it's more or less Supercross, tighter, bigger jumps, more technical. And then outdoors is what technically you see here today. So it's outdoors on a mountainside, hillside, anything like that has elevation and big jumps.
Okay. What kind of bike you riding?
450 SXF KTM.
KTM.
Yes.
And how many races will you run for the year?
We just got done with 17 rounds of Supercross.
17 rounds.
17 rounds.
How many days?
So we started
days?
January 8th, and it just finished. It's
Okay.
every weekend on Saturdays. And then outdoors, there's 12. They actually start this weekend, but I plan on doing 9 of them.
I do 9 of them. So
yes.
when's your next race?
June 11th in Denver, Colorado.
Will
so
it be
2
on
weeks.
TV where we can watch? It
correct.
will be. What channel? Anything else like that?
That's actually a good question because they're changing it
figure
all
that
up.
out
It's like
there.
MAV TV now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on MAV TV, which you can either purchase MAV TV Plus or you can get the like Hulu and Fubo you can stream, or YouTube TV.
So a lot of ways to watch this stuff. We'll get more intel as we get going on the show. Jeff, you were with us last year.
That's
Thanks
right.
for
I
being
was.
back.
Hey, man, this is exciting. I love coming on the show here and getting to be part of Mega Camp. Also, this is the 5th year that we have done it. Scott came to me a couple years, or 6.5 years ago. He's like, dude, we got to do something. And so we really put our heads together about it. Obviously, it was Scott's idea. He came to me because I have done training previously. I started training kids actually when I was 16 years old. And did it for a very long time. And at the time, I was more focused on just having a good time and doing a little bit of racing on the side. And, we just were like, what can we do that provides value to riders, athletes, people that are looking to have a good time over this weekend? Scott, was the first event on this weekend, or was it later in the year?
No, Memorial Day weekend. 4 out of the 5 have been Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
One weekend they had another event got scheduled here, so we got pushed on that, and we did it over the week of Loretta's. We did it in August.
That's right.
We did an August weekend. So every other year we've done Memorial Day weekend, and that's what we shoot for. We trying to make it a staple event, Memorial Day weekend. Hey, we got to get to, it's on everybody's calendar part of the year.
And to that point, it practically has turned into a reserved weekend where, formerly back in the late 90s, early 2000s, we used to do a Memorial Day race at a track called Cahokia in northeastern Missouri. Okay. Now we're here, and it's a staple weekend. This is part of everyone's schedule. I mean, like Scott mentioned, we have almost 70 different riders, athletes. We even have entire families. There's, I can't remember their names.
The Butchers.
The Butchers,
They're from out of Nebraska.
Yeah.
All 4 of them.
Yeah, mom, dad, brother, sister.
Oh, really? That's cool.
So, and that's the thing is, like, we've got people from El Paso, Texas. We've had riders from Dubai.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, we've had international people from all over the middle, the west, the east. Everybody has come to this event, and it's we have a really good blend of, from, as Scott mentioned, little 50 riders that are 5 years old all the way up to Don's the oldest guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in his 60s. So
60s.
Yeah,
He's
so
out here training, trying to get better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, we offer a program between the 4 coaches. Brad's over there. But between our 4-coach program, we all have a lot of information, a lot of knowledge to be able to explain what the fundamental. We start with the fundamentals, and then we work on more advanced techniques as the weekend goes on. And it's a very fun event. And the best part of it all is at the weekend, whenever we get to talk about the athletes that we trained and the riders and how much they progressed. And it's every single person that comes, they have progressed.
Yeah, from day one, from the beginning, at the time we start today at 10 o'clock, by the time we're done at 2 o'clock on Monday, everyone has made leaps and bounds in their program. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I'd like to use that 60-year-old as an example. You take my technicians back to the dealership, they're constantly training. And I'm on my salespeople all the time about you constantly training. Look at this guy, 60 years old, and he's still trying to get better.
Absolutely.
Okay? It's just never-ending battle, is it?
No, it never is.
Never is. So kind of tell our listeners a little bit about what you do at the camp. I'm sure there's different, each one of you coaches have a different expertise level you're hitting on, or what you're trying to train these guys on, or what's kind of happening there.
Yeah, so we will take the track. We'll do a lot of full track riding, so we'll break them into group size by bike size. But we will break the track into like 4 different sections. So each coach will have a designated area, and each part of this course has different things that we run in, different obstacles and different terrain. So each section that you go to is a different challenge, really. And so you're working on different techniques and things. And we all coach a little bit differently. We see things a little bit differently. So you're going to get 4 different perspectives. And so as an athlete on the track, you're going to be downloading a lot of information and taking bits and pieces to whatever makes the most sense for them. And then ultimately it helps them improve and go from there. So
okay,
we will.
So at the end of this deal, do you coaches have a race and race each other?
Yeah,
we did that 2 years ago.
In the beginning, it was a little bit smaller in the beginning of
Right.
all this, and so we actually had some time to do it.
Yeah.
And now it has kind of gotten so big, it's hard to get away from it. And I don't know, maybe we might. Who knows? We've done it in the past.
I think that we should absolutely do the last man standing.
Yeah.
Between the 4 coaches. Which, check this out.
So it's ready to go, Kevin.
Yeah, I don't know what this is. Go, keep going.
What's funny is Kevin's the lightest guy, so he actually has a disadvantage. So you think a light athlete will have an advantage on the motocross track where the less tonnage they're towing,
Right.
to get to the first corner and straight lines, the faster the
Let's
motorcycle
explain
goes.
what's last man standing.
So
Kevin needs to know here.
Right.
Kevin's
The last man
ready to
standing.
go here.
It's essentially Foursquare, the kickball
Okay.
game.
Yeah.
But instead of it being with a ball, we all start in a square, and then the last man standing that has not put their feet down or fallen over inside of that box while riding on their motorcycle is the winner.
Okay, how big's the box?
That's a good question, Scott. It's like 15 by 15?
It's probably going to be a little bit bigger than that. We're probably like a 20 by 20. Last year, we probably did a 15 by 15,
Yeah.
and it was a little too small. But we'll probably go 20 by 20, so you have a little bit more room to work with, and you'll stick 2 or 3 riders in there, and or however many it is that we determine makes sense.
Yeah.
And you got to figure it out. Can't go
When are we
outside the
doing
lines.
this?
That'll be tomorrow evening. Tomorrow evening,
respect
actually,
that.
and the winners are getting Mel Hambelton awards. That's coming from Mel
Sweet.
Hambelton.
Love
Ford.
that
So,
too.
yeah.
So
So the thing about it is contact is welcome.
And
So that's where Kevin's
All right,
weight
yeah.
comes in. That's where he's got a disadvantage because a guy like me, who I'm the heaviest of the four of us. I'm a cool 200 pounds. And
I like that. Contact is welcome.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Contact is welcome. So
Give it a little shove.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
and sometimes that works. It works for you and doesn't work
it
for
can
you.
work against you. That's right. Yeah.
One of the kids, we thought he was going to win the whole thing, and he ran into a guy, and he ended up putting his foot down, and so he was out. And the other guy hadn't put his foot down yet, and he ended up winning. So
that could be a lot of fun. So what other highlights or whatever's going on this weekend besides training these guys, or is there some other things that, again, I don't know your sport that well, just I'm reaching for a lot of things here. So.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So we will do a lot of full track, just riding. They're going to get a lot of seat time. That's the biggest part of this whole deal is how much can we keep them on the bike. We will work everything from basic techniques to how to sprint, how to go faster, how to do starts and get better at those. And then like tonight, we were going to have our athlete summit. So this is the first time we've done that.
Okay, what's an athlete summit?
Athlete summit. So we've got a handful of guys coming on board. We have Bud Guthrie from Pro Bud Tire Paste is coming to teach guys how to change tires. And
we brought Bud to the store.
oh, okay. You're using it in the.
Well, yeah, we use his paste and stuff like that too. Because
Yeah.
I will tell you, I've changed a lot of tires in cars and trucks and semis and that kind of thing. Change with the motorcycle tires. Hate to tell what kind of words I was throwing out of my mouth trying to change one of those things. So we brought Bud in to help train our guys and everything else too, and we use his paste and stuff. So yeah, we're getting better at it. Tyler's in our trailer today. He's my master at it so far.
He's got to figure. That's good. That's good. I have a couple tire irons that are in the shape of a U, so I understand what you're talking about. I am not good at it either. So
Bud's going to come in and change tires.
yeah, he's gonna instruct guys how to change tires, tips and tricks. Probably kind of a lot of what he told your technicians. We also have Josh Theus, who's over here. He is going to talk fitness and nutrition because in the motocross world, that is a massive thing because your body needs to be at peak performance when you're racing,
Okay,
especially
back
at
up on that a
Kevin's
minute. He's who again?
Josh Theus with JT Performance.
JT Performance. He's driven. What's he bringing? Like shakes or food?
No,
or
so we're not really food. So he has actually fitness equipment. He's a certified personal trainer. And so
Okay.
he's going to talk about what kind of workouts and stretching and all of that kind of stuff he needs to be doing. And then the nutrition side we're going to talk is we actually talked a bunch of this at dinner last night about certain foods and things you need to eat and do in order to make sure your body's performing the way that it needs to. Because you're burning lots and lots of calories when you're out there on the track. And when you're burning those kind of calories, you really have to make sure you're replenishing them and getting the right kind of stuff back in.
Also, I just want to check in right there. So something that has changed within the sport of motocross itself is the technique of training and the importance of it. And like Kevin, high level athlete, truly. I mean, Kevin could do, I don't know if he could do a marathon tomorrow, but his brain could push him to do it.
Yeah.
He's got the mental fortitude.
Okay, let's ask, how much do you work out?
So right now I'm kind of in season, which you're not working out as much because you're racing on the weekends. So you're trying to recover / maintain through the season.
Okay.
And then off season / preseason is where it really, gets really heavy, more or less.
More or less.
Yeah,
So
so
your
typically
base.
a guy like Kevin will do a boot camp from October, November, and December of just like absolute machine training. And I started to mention the change in motocross training. We've gone away from being so cardio based. And we were actually talking about this at dinner last night about how much of our sport requires strength training. Now you look at a guy like Kevin and he's not super swole up. Well, the thing about Kevin's strength training is his strength endurance. Not strength of just like, I can pick up, 500 pounds or whatever, but it's that endurance of muscle, which a guy like Josh, who is a motocross racer himself, he understands the sport and the necessities and needs of an athlete like Kevin, and he's able to take that knowledge and then give it to all of the mega camp athletes that are here this weekend. And there will be a lot of people that will be like, oh my gosh, I had no idea.
Yeah, at the youth level and at the amateur level, it's a big missing piece of the program. It's just something that a lot of people don't think about it. If you're eating McDonald's on the way to the dirt bike track, you're not going to perform.
You're not going to perform very well. Hey, we got a caller here real quick.
Yep.
I want to get more in this training because there's a lot of things we can talk about on that side. Jordan, you're live with Under the Hood. Are you there, buddy?
Yeah, how are we doing today, guys?
We're good, man. Having fun out here at Bar to Bar, learning a lot of stuff about motocross. You ever think about motocross, Jordan?
I don't know much about motocross other than those guys have lost their mind.
Yeah, the very first time I was out
I
here
mean-
at Bar to Bar here last year and watching these guys fly through the air, I'm thinking, holy smokes, you're right.
Yeah.
So,
Right, like I used to race a sprint car, and I think they're crazy.
Yeah, you're crazy on that side too.
Not like that. Those guys flying through the air, that's insane.
So Jordan, the car that you were driving, was it a wing sprint car with a route wing where you do?
Absolutely.
Yeah, wing sprint.
Yeah.
Wing 360.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, that's like guys. That car weighs what, 1,200 pounds and got 800 horsepower.
That's like riding a bull.
Yeah,
So that's like
they're almost 800 horsepower, 1,200 pounds. Got a big wing on the top of them. Yeah, they're bad to the bone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. So we're learning a lot of stuff about riding two wheels and stuff. And I could probably ride around in this grass area, and that's about all I want to go do.
Yeah, that motocross stuff, those guys are nuts. But the question I had, being in the racing world and having buddies in motocross, and I don't know why I've never asked you this. I hear you guys all the time talking about the Loretta Lynn this, Loretta Lynn this. Is that like literally Loretta Lynn, the country singer?
yes.
And if so, what's her involvement? I mean, when she's not writing tunes, she just loves dirt bike racing. I mean, I'm curious. What's the connection?
So Loretta Lynn's, when they say Loretta Lynn's, they do legitimately mean Loretta Lynn's. So the biggest amateur national championship, the big dog race for all amateurs, is actually held at Loretta Lynn's Ranch in Tennessee. I can't remember Waverly, Tennessee. That's it. And you go right down the street, and you are at Loretta Lynn's house. You are right down the street from there, right down by the creek, and they have a full-blown motocross track that gets used once a year, specifically just for that event. And it is the big daddy of them all, I guess you could say. It's the most difficult race to qualify for outside of Pro Supercross, the Pro Tour, anything outside of that. They actually have a 2-step qualifying process to get there. So here at Bar to Bar, they have an area qualifier, which is step 1. Riders show up and go do that. You have to do that race. You have to finish in the top 8. And each region as you go to, depending on their rider turnout, they actually have different requirements. But for this area, you have to finish in the top 8 at that race. And then what's coming up, a lot of these riders here this weekend are actually going to their regional races, the ones I mentioned earlier. They have regional qualifiers, and you have to finish within the top 6 at that race. And actually, Bar to Bar has also held one of those 2 years ago or so. And you have to finish in the top 6. And once you finish in the top 6 of that, you are in for the national, and you are you get to go race. And
so why is she so heavily involved in motocross? What's her hook or whatever?
Okay, so it's not necessarily Loretta herself.
Okay.
It's the thing is that the Coombs family started this race, and they're big promoters in motocross. The Coombs family they were looking for a property to hold this race. The first one, Bruce, do you know, early 80s, something like that.
Yeah.
So it was the Grand National Championship of amateur racing. They needed a place to have it. The Loretta Lynn's campground and ranch was the best facility to have it. Now Loretta's family does ride off-road dirt bikes, and so they were open to the idea of it, and there was a connection there. I'm
not exactly sure what the connection is, but the facility's fantastic. They have the creek, the campground's wonderful. They've got a swimming, you know what I mean? They just have it's the perfect facility for that race, to hold that race and to hold that many people that show up.
Yeah, what was it, Scott? There was 2,400. There's a certain number of entries, but it's like 1,200 entries or something.
Yeah,
like
for
that
race specifically. So
Yeah.
it's the top 40 in the nation. So it's the top 40 12-year-olds. It's the top 40 10-year-olds. It's the top 40 by age group, and then also by skill level. So the top 40 amateur professionals, the top 40 intermediate riders, the top 40 novice. It breaks down like that. And they have a whole list of classes. But it's 1,200 to 2,000 entries that actually qualify for that. But there's probably well over 50,000 people that try to qualify for it.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Now, are they on the same bikes as you cats, just different skill level, or is that a different bike?
No,
Like these two, or like everybody there?
Well, I mean, I can get there's different classes. What I'm saying is, okay, so the bike you ride in Supercross, that equivalent class of Loretta Lynn, their bikes are pretty equally matched to what you ride, or is there less bike?
The bike that I race is quite honestly pretty much off the showroom floor from Latico Cycles. So, I race a 450. There's obviously classes from kids being PWs, 50s, 60s, 80s, super minis, 125s, 250s, and 450s. So there's all the classes there. The bike that I race specifically is nothing special on top of that these amateurs can't get their hands on.
He's got a lot of trick parts. At the pro level, they have a production rule, And so you can only do so many things based on what those rules are. So you can't build a bike in your garage out of all kinds of custom titanium and then go race the Pro Tour. It still has to meet a bunch of requirements.
And it's essentially the same thing.
So they want to keep.
It's as if Mel Hambelton Ford sold race cars that were manufactured by Ford. So there's 8 manufacturers.
Don't give Phil any ideas.
There's 8 manufacturers, I believe, in motocross, and obviously Honda is probably the most synonymous name of just like a large Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, so on. The motorcycle manufacturers, they build a performance motorcycle, all of them. And it is the most race-ready motorsport that you can buy into. You can go to your local dealership and pick up a dirt bike and take it and race it and be competitive right off of the showroom floor. Whereas you can't go to the car dealership and pick up a Ford Mustang and take it to Lakeside Speedway on Saturday night and expect to, have any chance in it. Plus, you just wouldn't do that
you're at
to
a
car.
KTM.
Yes.
And it's a production performance bike, not a one that can just walk in Beesmo Lab and buy.
Yeah, anybody can go buy it.
Yeah.
Oh, you can?
Yes.
Oh, you can?
Yes. That's what I was saying is it's not something crazy special that nobody can get their hands on. Anybody that wants to go buy a bike from Leco Cycles can go buy what I have.
Okay, so you take that KTM off the shelf, and then do you tailor it? Because me and Jordan are in dirt racing.
Yes.
Yep.
And every track you go to, you've got to adjust springs, you adjust bar angles, you adjust J-bars, you adjust tire pressures, all that kind of stuff. Is it the same thing on the motorcycle?
Correct. So you have suspension components that you can change out, adjust stiffer, softer, depending on what kind of track you're on. Obviously, that's pretty much what I do. I take the showroom floor bike. I don't really touch the engine, at least very much, because the 450 is already pretty powerful.
You got more power than you need.
Yeah,
probably,
exactly.
Right?
So I just do, clutch, pipe, do all the
a lot of bolt-on stuff.
Yeah, the bolt-on stuff, the feeling to make me comfortable, and then go race it pretty much. So it's nothing too crazy.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, this motorcycle is sitting right here in front of us is a KTM 350 SXF. This motorcycle right here, you could take and race locally in the beginner class. You can also take this motorcycle. A guy like Kevin can take the motorcycle, have his suspension shop set up the suspension, which is Decker out of North Kansas City. So he can have his suspension. He'll throw on his controls that he prefers. So his specific bend of handlebars, his set of grips, his set of levers. Maybe do you run the stock foot pegs?
Flow Motorsports makes.
So he's got the Flow Motorsports foot pegs. They're slightly different. For the most part, that's just creature comfort. It's not actually a performance part.
Makes you feel comfortable on the bike.
Correct.
That's right. Yeah, and it's set up specifically for him. So this same motorcycle that a guy that can race in the beginner class can race in pro supercross like Kevin does.
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, it's ready to race. And there are a lot of guys that show up with brand new bikes, completely stock, and all they've done is adjust the handlebars.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so Kevin,
Yes.
what's it take to buy a 450 set up, race ready to go for you to jump in and hit the track?
You're talking like monetary, like how much money does it cost?
What's it cost to buy one of those bikes, have it set up for you to hit the track?
If you want to get really into it, full on race prep, everything, probably 15 to 20 grand. But just to get into a bike and probably get the suspension redone, probably looking at 12 grand.
Okay, so what's the stock 450 bike cost just coming out of Bees Motor Lab?
About
10 to
10, 11 grand. So
10, 11 grand. So you're going to spend another 5 to 7, 8 grand on the bike after you get it to get it to your liking, to get it what you want. And then when you hit the track, how many different suspensions do you have and different?
So to be quite honestly, I don't know, you'd probably be able to touch on this a little bit better, but we have every set of suspension, at least on that I've ran, has clickers so you can adjust them. So you can adjust compression, rebound on front and rear shock. So you can adjust it instead of having to swap complete suspension.
Okay.
Right.
So he will change. He'll have a Supercross set that he does for all of his indoor racing inside the big arenas that they're much bigger jumps, a lot harder G outs. And then he'll have a motocross set for riding tracks like this. It's a little bit softer, a little plusher. The hits aren't quite as hard. So the bike handles a little bit differently. So those are the two setups.
How many bikes do you take to the track?
Preferably 2, but the big races, honestly, I'm only really able to take 1 because I usually have a transport service since they're all over the country that I'll try to set myself up with a transport service so I have the option to fly or drive. That way, if we're going all the way across the country, I can fly instead of having to drive it. So most of the time 1, but it's ideal to have 2 just in case if something happens.
Something happens, you get in a wreck or whatever.
Yeah.
So I have a question for Jordan. Jordan, I heard you say that the motorcycle was super affordable. So whenever you were racing sprint cars, Obviously, did you buy someone else's car? Did you buy a chassis and then build it from there? Like what your car that you had, what it ended up costing you once it was built to your spec?
Oh my gosh, we have $100,000 in the car, and I mean, we had. I mean, I personally couldn't afford that. I mean, we had sponsors and we had a car owner that paid for everything. But I mean, we'll have $40,000 in just a motor. I ran a J&J chassis, but there's different chassis you can run. But I mean, just a rolling chassis is $20,000, and that's a sprint car, a modified a rolling chassis these days is $40,000.
Wow.
So if someone who knows nothing about motorsports is listening to this show, they may say $10,000-12,000 sounds like a lot, but me and Phil are sitting here scratching their heads saying, "Wow, that's the cheapest thing to race."
Maybe need to switch sports. Maybe
you just gotta have the skill to make that to make that bike do the things it needs to do, and that's what separates the men from the boys, if you will. But
so I heard you mention.
I
heard you. Sorry to cut you off there. I heard you mention that you had a car owner, so you were the driver of the car. You didn't own the car itself. You were just the wheelman.
I was the wheelman. Yeah, it was completely funded by. I say car owner. I use that word loosely. It was my dad.
Okay.
I just didn't want to. I would like that on the show.
Yeah.
But between my dad and our sponsors, they were the monetary. They financially did the whole deal. And I was fortunate enough to drive the thing.
How long did you do that for?
I raced go-karts from the time I was 10 till I was 16. I raced a modified from 16 to 26. And I raced a sprint car from 26 to 36.
Wow.
So a long time, man. 20 years plus.
Yeah, we could go right around here about dirt track racing. That's what I'm into, guys. I drive it. I own the car. My son drives it. It's a dirt modified. We're headed. After we get done here, I'm headed to load the trailer up and head to Hayes to go race. We got rained out last night, or we'd have been in Salina racing from that part. So it's fun to take these sports and compare them and what it does from that part too. From that part.
So also, okay, let's talk about tires.
Yeah.
So you guys run the Hoosier tire on your car?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so and you typically go to the track with how many sets? Because I know you take extra sets of tires and wheels already mounted. So in a night of racing at Hayes, how many sets of tires and wheels are you going to burn through?
I try to. I'll be honest with you. We try to go to a race and make it through hot laps, which is just your warm up session.
Right.
Then a heat race is 8 laps, and then the features are 20 laps. And I'll try to run that same set of tires all night.
Okay,
but I take 3 sets of tires with me
just in case.
Just in case.
And are all 3 of those match tires? Are they the same, or are they different tread patterns and compounds?
It's only one tire we can run.
Okay, so it's a spec tire.
Yep. It's a spec tire, but then we can groove it, we can sipe it, and we can grind it.
Yeah.
But then the other key part comes into, and I don't know if you guys probably don't mess with this as much. We have stagger. Like the right rear is going to be bigger than the left rear. So it goes around the track. Yeah. Same thing on the right front and left rear. But then how much of that stagger you run depends on what the track's doing.
Right.
To set that car up to turn.
And what is at retail value, what does a set of car tires cost?
The tire we're running is a Hoosier G60, and it'll run about 150 a tire.
Each tire.
So
that's $600 in tires.
Yes.
And it's good for a night.
We'll make it through a night with about a set.
Maybe.
Yeah.
The left front,
maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
So,
the left front will be okay mostly because there's not a lot of pressure on the left front.
Yeah.
That right, the 2 rear tires after that night, they're done.
So, Jordan, to your point about motocross being affordable, here's an analogy, and I don't know exactly what the Hoosier tire retails at. I run the Dunlop tire, and the at full retail, I think the rear tire is $140, and then the front tire is about 120-ish in that.
Yeah.
So a set of tires, you're under $400, and those will last you. The retail model will last you probably.
It's all based on how much you ride.
Right, 10 to 12 hours of riding, which is a handful. I mean, that's about 8. A guy like Kevin who trains 20, 30, 40 minutes at a time, the tire doesn't last as long in a calendar amount. We measure the tire time in hours as opposed to days.
But I bet, Kevin, when you go out for one of your big pro races, you got a brand new tire on that rear every time.
Yes.
Yeah. That's kind of how our rears are too. We go for the feature. We're pretty much going to have a brand new tire sitting on it, especially the right rear.
You're going to leave that on the table. That's not one thing you're going to leave sitting out there. Yeah, absolutely not.
So are you running the Dunlop or are you running a Hoosier?
I run Pirelli, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So I run the Pirelli front and rear.
Okay, is that a sponsor thing or is that a preference thing?
Both, to be honest. Yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
It's a sponsor thing that became a preference thing,
Exactly.
right? Is that what it
Yeah.
was?
So like
get
I
it.
joined in with a team that's what they provided. That's what we changed to, and then ever since then I've just stayed on them.
I get it. I mean, it's I get it.
And to that point, I've raced, you know, on everything. Hoosier, Dunlop, Michelin, the Pirelli tire. They all have their strengths and weaknesses.
Yep.
So, for example, like the Dunlop tire is like the ultimate consumer tire. It has a really long shelf life on the track.
Okay.
It's a harder compound, so the tire, the rubber itself doesn't wear out as quickly.
Gotcha.
Whereas like the Hoosier tire, which is an on-the-shelf spec tire, which is a fantastic motocross tire, but doesn't have as much lifespan on the track.
Okay.
Then you have a Pirelli tire, which is a extremely light carcass of the tire, and it has a double compound between the knobs on the inside and the knobs on the outside that you use for cornering. It is a separate rubber compound.
That's cool.
So it has different characteristics while on the track, and it's actually the Pirelli is probably the most susceptible to change throughout a day. So like in the morning, Kevin will show up at like, let's say a local race. Last weekend we raced at Midwest Extreme Park. Kevin would show up on his Pirelli tire and it would be absolutely fantastic. Scorpion MX32 is what you're riding, right? So the Scorpion 32 tire will be fantastic at the beginning of the day where the track is super tacky and really, really grabby. Okay. So you get a lot of, so we'll call it volume. Okay. Everything is on a tacky track. You feel every bump every single time, you know, the handlebars twitch at all. You can feel that. Moving later in the day, Kevin's who's running that soft to intermediate MX32 Scorpion tire. Later in the day, whenever the track gets super hard pack and real chucked out, that's not the preferential tire because that compound is not built for that type of soil surface.
Okay.
So we actually, you know, a lot of pro riders will take two separate wheels, okay, and we'll start the day with a soft intermediate tire, and then at a track like Midwest Extreme that gets hard, it's a clay base. We'll switch over to a harder pack tire in the afternoon. If you come prepared, if you're taking it that seriously, you can make it through the day. But like a Pirelli tire, and not to like poo-poo on Pirelli. This is my experience from Pirelli, is that later in the day that Pirelli doesn't perform as well because it's simply just not built to withstand a hard pack surface.
So can you, even though it's your sponsor tire, can you switch tires or are you stuck or you got to stay on that Pirelli?
I mean, yeah, I'm pretty much stuck with
You're
them.
stuck
Which, I wouldn't want to burn any bridges. Let's put it that way.
Well, I get it.
And stuck is not the right word. I mean, it's a fantastic, you know, sponsor with Kevin, and they support him very massively.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where what I hear is here at Bar to Bar, you've got a lot of sand. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct. So that's a different type tire. Some of them tracks you're going to go on to is going to be a harder dirt tire.
Yeah.
I mean, dirt track.
Yep.
And you're going to have a different situation there to actually go and stuff.
Yeah.
So on this sand out here at Bar to Bar, what's the tire?
It would be the especially the way the track is right now with all the precipitation we had earlier in the week. What's called the scoop. Okay, and I can't remember what the
model of
the Hoosier. What's the Hoosier
I'm not
scoop
that
tire?
expert. We need Tyler over here. Is what I
Right.
need.
So there's essentially four different. Every manufacturer makes four different style of tire. There's hard, okay, which is you think like concrete. Essentially, there's a hard tire. Then you have an intermediate. Then you have a soft to intermediate, which this motorcycle right here has a soft to intermediate tire. That's the Dunlop MX33. And then the soft tire, which is for sand and mud, which is also the scoop tire. So the tread pattern on that is what everybody knows what a paddle tire is.
Paddle tire, yeah.
Okay, so it's essentially a motocross version of a paddle tire where it has knobs that are shaped in a V that is specifically made for cornering. Pirelli was really the one that started the scoop tire. Okay. Hoosier was one of the first also to the table right after Pirelli came out with theirs, and then Dunlop followed with the MX11, now the MX12. So it's an evolving technology that actually just came out within the last 5 or 6 years, and it's still something that all the tire manufacturers are getting figured out. But a track like this for motocross, I mean, regardless of what manufacturer, a day like today, absolutely an advantage would be to run the scoop tire.
Scoop tire.
on the rear. And then there's also the front tire also that has different tread patterns, characteristics, different carcasses. I mean, you can really get into the weeds with tire setup, and we haven't even talked PSI.
Oh yeah, trust me, that's the same difference.
Right.
That's kind of the same deal with my tires on the car too. PSIs.
Trust me, buddy. We understand.
Yeah, we do. I mean, it's
we get it.
yeah. 'Cause you'll stand there about 2 minutes before you're ready to go out in the feature, and we're pulling the mud plugs back off and adjusting tire pressure.
Right.
And stuff too, real quick and fast. And I mean, to the 10th of a pound.
Wow.
Is where we're at.
So typically for motocross, depending on the sidewall thickness and the carcass strength, anywhere between like a Dunlop tire, which I mentioned is a harder base compound. The Dunlop tire will run 12.5 in the rear, 13 in the front. Now, a Hoosier and a Pirelli, which has less carcass and is a little bit softer of a sidewall, you'll run 14, 15 pounds.
We usually run 13. I ran through Supercross 13.5 in both front and rear.
Really?
Yeah, most of the time. We jump back in between 13 at some, depending on how rutted the track was, but 13.5 was a base, then we go up to 14.
Right.
Too.
That's pretty close. That's some of the pressures we run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a
From that
12 and
part.
12 guy.
Really?
And
Always
have been
always will be.
for
Yeah.
100 years. Yeah. All the way 12 and 12. Sometimes 12 and a half.
Yes, it's amazing how these sports really are kind of the same, and the things that kind of correlate together and everything else too from that part. So, talking tires and everything else, you got to stick with the Pirelli. You say you're running Dunlop.
I've got my bike. I'm currently has Dunlops. I'm hoping Bud puts a set of Hoosiers on it tonight. I'm hoping he's going to display. I'm going to try to talk him into changing my tires tonight.
And you?
I've been a Dunlop athlete now for 3 years. I ran the Hoosiers before that, and then had Pirelli before that. So I bought a set of Michelins for a project bike that I had. I've ridden on every tire, but right now, I'm a Dunlop guy. And hopefully moving forward, in the future, they continue to tolerate me.
Okay, let's go another step, and you guys can kind of tell me where you're at there. I kind of know from the Hoosier side what's going on, but on our side, we're hard to get tires. The supply is terrible. So how is it with Dunlop? How is it with Pirelli? You guys got a tire shortage? You got an allocation on tires? What's happening there on your?
They were pretty short there for a little bit. I'm sure we're probably getting back to that point now. However, me being in the professional race scene, Pirelli, Dunlop, these guys come in with a race rig stacked full of tires for their athletes and everything.
You.
So I haven't really seen the retail side of it being a problem, but I don't know if these guys could touch more.
But just in general, everything's hard to get.
Yeah.
Right.
Motorcycles are hard to get. Motorcycle parts are hard to get. Gear's hard to get. And a lot of that it has to do because of the pandemic and everything and all this hard to get stuff. And then all of a sudden it got a little bit better. And then now again, it's kind of hard to get again. So
here's a super technical question. Do you know if the Hoosier tire is made out of Indonesian rubber?
I couldn't tell you.
You couldn't.
Yeah,
So that's
what a question, Jeff.
Well, it makes
That's a good question. Now you're going to make me find out. 'Cause I'll be on the phone Tuesday morning with my Hoosier guy saying, "Hey,
call Irish. I need to know right now."
Yeah, Irish, yes.
So here's the thing about the rubber situation. Whenever the pandemic hit, we had a rubber surplus, which I don't know if you know this, Kevin. All rubber comes from trees. It is a specific petroleum product that is manufactured out of tree sap, essentially.
Yep.
Okay, now there's a lot of steps to get from trees to rubber. The main problem was so many of these tree processing plants in Indonesia, in China, in the Philippines, where all of the rubber is essentially coming from. It was not the shipping. It wasn't the shortage of people. The problem was so many of these farms are using such old equipment. Whenever you have a company, let's say like TVH, which is a German wholesaler of fork truck and heavy machinery products, whenever a company like TVH shuts down, which I mean, a German company, they're going to be the first to shut down because they took the pandemic super seriously. So they're a multi, international global company. Them not supplying the parts necessary for those farms to be able to continue servicing is what stopped or essentially started the rubber shortage.
Yep.
Because it was the fact that they could not offload or onload, let's say, the rubber trees to be taken to the processing plant. That was the first bottleneck, right?
Yep.
So it's only gone out, just a massive upside down funnel since then. And then we see it. We don't have car tires. We don't have motorcycle tires, consumer tires. Doesn't matter what it is. That's where it started, was over bad equipment not being able to be serviced. And I know this because I've talked to Rob at Dunlop about what happened. Explain this to me so I understand. And he gave me the full rundown of it started with this one tiny little thing, because there's all these old jalopy forklifts that are being used to process these, all this tree stuff. And then here we see it with petroleum products and
we get all the way to Mel Hambelton in Wichita, Kansas, too. And can't get tires, right?
And it makes you realize what a global supply chain there truly is, and how interconnected everything is, and how it's a global economy. And yet, one small piece of the puzzle, the second that it fails, it just trickles outward, and then it's just a crisis in every direction. We have not seen it. I don't know, Scott. We have not seen it so much on the Dunlop end, because we have such a large supply of tires, because Dunlop is such a large company, which I believe Dunlop is Goodyear. Yeah, Dunlop is Goodyear, and then Hoosier is Continental, correct?
That's correct.
Right. So, and Continental is German company. Is that I think So it all bases about where the tire comes from, where the corporate structuring is built, and how seriously they took shutting down for the pandemic.
Well, and another part of it is when the pandemic began, all these kids couldn't play baseball. They couldn't play football. They couldn't do these team sports. So a lot of guys went and got bicycles. They went and got dirt bikes. And so there was a giant influx of new athletes and new people participating in motocross alone. So there go all new bikes, all the new gear, all the stuff coming off the shelf. So all of these dealerships and places like that were selling out. All these distributors were selling out of parts and accessories and gear. And didn't have anything to replace it because of all the way back down to the forklift issue,
right?
And
again, to Jordan's point, what an affordable sport to get into whenever your buy-in for a new guy is $10,000 and he's ready to race for 2 or 3 seasons. I mean, these 450s, you can put 100 hours on them, and all you ever do is air filter and oil.
Right.
And
it's more affordable to get into, but the medical bills are higher. That's right.
Amen to that.
It's a trade-off. It's a trade-off.
Yeah. I had a
Hey guys, you guys have a
200,000.
great day. I've got to get off here. But
Okay.
good to talk to you. Have a great Memorial Day weekend.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thanks for calling, Jordan.
Bruce, you want in here? We want to kick Kevin out? What do we want to do?
So to that point, about the medical bills, is I have two $200,000 legs.
I knew, because last time you were standing here you're on a cab.
That's right. Yeah. So here's it's it's come back around.
Yeah.
Dang. Woo. That hurts.
It does.
It's not fun. It's not fun.
And let's not talk negative.
Part of
but
it.
Have you been hurt before?
Yeah. I've had my fair share. Too many concussions, unfortunately. And then I did tib fib in my left side, November of 18, right before my first season of Supercross. So,
I get it.
knock on wood, but you know what I mean? It's happened.
It's part of the sport.
It's an accepted amount of risk, is what it is.
It's a risk every time you strap that helmet on.
Yes, absolutely.
And
and it's something I think about every time that I load up my motorcycle is, am I, and I acknowledge it. It's something that I actively think about. Am I willing to take on the repercussions of what it is that I'm about to go do? And I ask myself that every time, because there may be a day that comes where I'm just like, you know what, I'm not going to go ride. Yeah. And that's it.
Or you go ride and just don't push it as hard.
I can't do that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's when you get to this point, it's hard to go play.
Right.
It's hard to just go cruise around these days.
Yeah, I get it. I understand that too from that part. So anyway, it's something we got kind of going all different directions and stuff. And what I want to hit back on is that training that you talked about, this guy here about eating and all that good stuff. And I see how your body's more physical into this sport, because what you got to go do. Where Jake, my son, gets in that car, I tell him 95% of getting behind that steering wheel is mental.
Yeah,
but it's still a physical thing. He works out all the time. He probably didn't eat the best or whatever from that part. But so, do you have a regimented schedule of how you do a day or how you get ready for the race that day?
To an extent, yeah, definitely on race day. However, as of recently, like in the past, I really hadn't worried about what I've eaten and stuff like that, but I'm getting to the level now that is a thing, staying away from gluten, dairy, just like different things that I've been doing lately to try to help performance. It is starting to become a very big deal.
Are you getting older, Kevin? Is that what it is?
Dude, it's just catching up to me. I can't, unfortunately, yep, 22.
Okay, so what time I want to go through a day with you. Okay, you wake up in the morning, let's say, is there a certain time of the day you normally race?
Really depends whether you're Supercross or outdoors. Outdoors ends up starting earlier than Supercross because Supercross is more of like a night show. Like
Okay.
it's a whole thing.
So let's take that
in a
night
stadium.
Let's take that night show.
Okay.
Wake up in the morning. What's your day? How do you go through your day when you're getting ready to go?
Usually
on
on
that
race
bike.
day, I'll wake up, try to do some sort of yoga / stretching just to get my body warmed up for the day. Wild thing that I've learned is just like the simple stretching and yoga can make your day, whether you're an athlete or not, just so much better. Just feeling limber and not feeling groggy, more or less.
Gotcha.
So doing that, getting something good to eat, heading to the track.
When you say
Usually,
something good to eat. What do you eat?
so eggs, avocado.
Yep.
I've been unfortunately staying away from bread because I used to eat sandwiches like every morning and every afternoon because it was quick and I could keep moving. And that's just started to catch up with me over the last couple of years.
So no on the sandwiches. Okay.
Yep. Or just bread is the biggest thing that I've had to cut out. This is the toughest thing for me,
Oh,
more
sure.
or less, just because it's easy for me and it allows me to keep going. But yeah, so the biggest thing is just natural foods, not cereal, not, anything that's
Clean-
super processed.
clean foods,
Clean foods. So, just that. And then we jump into getting to the track around 10 or 11. Usually everything gets going around noon. And then, you have your qualifying sessions. Then when you come off, you're eating healthier snacks, fluids, stuff like that, and getting into racing and just, trying to be as prepared as you can going into it.
Do you eat kiwis?
I don't.
Really?
I love kiwis, but I don't really eat them.
The kiwi is a natural superfood that has a massive amount of potassium in it, which is something that a guy like Kevin the amount of potassium that you burn through in a day is huge. Yeah, at his level, and especially once you start getting into outdoor motocross. But also, what might surprise you is the amount of sugar that guys consume. Also,
I'm trying to stay away from sugar. That's one of the things that I used to not care about, and that's what I've been told is stay away from sugar. But it's almost impossible how much sugar's in everything.
Now we're talking specifically on race day.
You actually want a little bit sugar on race day. Yeah.
So not to take it away from Kevin, but like me, whenever I'm doing a race that has, even if it's like a local race, I'll sign up for 3 or 4 different classes. There's not much sitting around,
You got to be going, yeah.
That's right. In a moto order, we'll have 20, 22 races that we race twice. Okay. So I'm going to race 8 times in a day. And each one of those times is about 10 to 15 minutes. So between practice in the morning, then racing 8 times throughout the day, I'll clear every bit of 3,500 calories. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you can't replenish that throughout the day. Okay. So you have to have those calories on board before the day even starts.
Yeah.
Now, however, you can refuel pretty quickly and get your body to regenerate fast through simple sugars. Literally kiwis, oranges, grapes, bananas, etc. Simple
stuff. Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of these guys that and this is something a lot of people are trying, where they're going so far as to eating pixie sticks, doing like literally
for the sugars.
drinking soda right after races. You've seen guys.
Yeah, I've actually seen a lot of guys do that.
It's
The soda getting the sugar back in you? Is
That's
that what it is?
exactly right. Yes. Yeah. Because
That's after the race.
that's directly after the race. That's where they pull off of the track from a 36-minute pro moto, and they go back to the truck and they reach past the water and go for a Coke or a Mountain Dew or something like
Now
that.
they're going to race again?
Yes, they're going to race again.
So that's in between race. It's after
That's
the
right.
race, but in between
Right.
races.
Yes. To reset the body going into its glycogen is
something like that.
Yeah. It's a specific thing that your body has to, and Josh would be able to answer this pretty well. But there's this very specific thing that your body has to reset on in order to be able to go. Because also, mind you, we're burning not just fuel but adrenaline as well.
Oh, yeah.
So like setting on the starting line, and I'm sure that you guys know this from car racing, setting on the starting line, whether it's a pro outdoor national supercross race or just a local race, you're sitting there, and usually if you don't have your wits about you, you could easily be sitting on the starting gate and you haven't even put your bike in gear yet, and your heart rate's 150, 160, sitting there.
I'm doing that when my kid's getting ready to go.
Right, yeah.
That first.
And then, so there's a rule of thumb of you take, what is it, Kevin? 220 minus your age is your target heart rate while racing.
220 minus your age.
That's right. Yeah. So a guy like me, I'm 33 years old. So my target heart range, or heart rate range, whenever I'm racing, is between 175 and 185.
You put something on your monitor that where you're racing?
Absolutely. So I have a Polar Vantage M that I wear as a wristwatch, that monitors and tracks everything that I do. And then I actually have a Polar H10 heart rate monitor strap. So an orbital, which is a wristwatch, doesn't track as well as like a heart rate monitor. So it's got this little device right here with a strap. That little device right there is as accurate as it can get. Okay.
Really? Do you do that too?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
you really-
Polar as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
All pro athletes, even.
I'm surprised you don't have one on Jake. in
Well,
your car.
I think
Yeah.
I might have to.
Actually, I'd be really curious.
I would
to
be
know,
too.
To know what kind of heart rate it is. That
I would be too.
that they're using.
Running when they're
Hell, rush hour, going to lunch on Kellogg.
exactly. Anyway, Bruce from Bar to Bar just joined us. Bruce, thanks for taking over the mic. I guess Scott probably has a lot of things to
He
get going
does.
and get things
Yep.
set up and stuff too. So a lot of exciting stuff talking to these guys, and it's fun to find the commonalities between our dirt racing and motocross racing and all that kind of stuff too. So Bruce, thanks again for having me out here. Thanks for letting us have the show out here. Thanks for the great partnership that Mel Hambelton Ford Racing has with you and Bar to Bar. We got to get these guys switched over to Hoosier somehow.
I know, right? I know.
Just kidding.
I was listening in. I was like, "Oh no, don't do that." No,
Hey, it's what I call good, clean competition.
it is right.
And there's so much bad competition out there too, guys, and everything else too. I've got my partnerships that we have with Mel Hambelton Ford and Mel Hambelton Ford Racing and the dealership and all that stuff, and other people that have their partners and all that kind of stuff. But you got to have good, clean competition,
Right.
And that's why I asked all those questions about those tires. I want to know why you're on your Pirelli. I want to know why you like the Dunlop and all that kind of stuff. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be on the phone with Irish
Yeah.
first of the week and talking to Irish what I heard. I'll probably have him go listen to the show and listen to what you had to
bring
say.
up my name to Irish and he'll laugh you off of the phone. No, it's friendly competition,
Yes.
and so to that point specifically, I have a race team that competes in the Hoosier Tire Arena Cross Outlaws. Okay. So, and obviously Hoosier is a major sponsor of that
blown
series.
over here, aren't we?
Hoosier's a major part of that series. And Dunlop saw an opportunity to use my team as friendly competition.
Yeah.
Okay. And so Irish, we tried working out a deal with Hoosier. We had different ideas of what we wanted to do with the race team. Dunlop stepped in and was able to provide for us, and no hard feelings. But still, you can tell there's that bit of like, I want my guys to be Irish just because, or Irish's riders just because of the tires.
Yeah, sure.
And it's clean. And I mean, we've been standing around. I'll watch my riders. He's watching his, and we're standing there elbowing each other. And it's like, come on, But it is. And then the corporate competition also, and seeing Hoosier's drive to become a leader in the market, and then Dunlop and what's wild is you get outside of America. So like Kevin runs the Pirelli tire. You go race the Grand Prix, the MXGP series over, which is a global series. It does every continent in America or in the world. Pirelli is the leading tire globally. Dunlop is the leading tire in America. Strictly marketing.
Yeah.
It's all marketing. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And that goes back to what you were alluded to earlier, Phil. Your Mel Hambelton Ford's relationship in the racing industry here in the Midwest doesn't go unnoticed. We appreciate you just as much as you appreciate us, and the fact that you support all kinds of racing and all walks of life that participate in those sports. It's awesome. Last night we had the pleasure of getting the racetrack ready where all these kids and riders are coming in and their parents, and next door they're having a drag race, right? And it was just awesome. Our kids, and we're like, oh man, that's crazy. And then it's fun because when they have a drag race, they'll come over here and watch you guys are crazy. I can't believe, and I'm like, and that's what makes it awesome. And you guys are deeply involved in the community and in the sports, all of those sports, and we thank you very much. And to bring this caliber of people to Wichita for 3 days over Memorial Weekend, to be in our city, to be in our town, to go, spend time in our restaurants, in our hotels, and just spend time in our community. To me, that's what I get excited about.
Yep.
And to Bruce's point also about Mel Hambelton's partnership with the track and participation in motocross as a whole, it is known throughout the industry.
Believe it.
On an amateur level, people know who Mel Hambelton Racing is, even though they know nothing about the actual car dealership itself. But whenever they come to this race, which pulls from all over the nation, they see that trailer with those tires, the parts, the fuel, everything, and people are like, wow.
And
this is
now,
badass.
and we talked about this a couple years ago. Now it's becoming Mel Hambelton's going to be there, right? Be there, right?
Yeah.
And Circle Track's no different than drag racing, motocross. We're a weird bunch, right? And
We're
we
all
want to we want to do business with people that we like and trust.
Right.
And it takes a little bit to gain that. And
Yes.
once you get that, not only do they like you and trust you, but now they're dependent on you. You better be there.
Right.
You know, it's like we go to a lot of tracks, guys. I got 2 trailers, I got 4 vans, and I've got Connex boxes set up at actual race trailers that are stocked with parts and stuff, so we don't have to haul that big trailer and everything else too. And some days we'll get there and don't sell much.
Sure.
And my guys will come back a little down and say, hey guys, you know what? It's okay. It's okay. That racer knows we're there. We need to be there when they need us, and we got to be there consistently so they can depend on us. So it's okay we don't sell.
And I know you're wrapping up. I was just visiting with your guy, Tyler.
Yeah.
You know, we do a lot of prep track practices and stuff like that. Not expected to have a bunch of vendors on site for a Sunday afternoon prep track practice. But we need to get creative on maybe a propane cage with race fuel in it for that practice.
Okay.
We have it here, we stage it here, and we just do a consignment inventory on a weekly basis, right? And he's like, that's a great idea. Because once they know you're here, that means now they think we got fuel too all the time, right?
Yeah.
And they go, wait a minute, where's the fuel?
Yeah. Bruce, probably the easiest thing to do is I'll go buy another Connex box like I've done it. I've done it at Enid. I got one at Salina, and we just go buy another Connex box.
Yeah, we'll figure something out, right? But I think those, in order to provide our product and service on a much broader scale, on a much more frequent scale, is going to do nothing but benefit the sport, benefit each one of us, and most importantly, benefit the racer.
Right. Yeah. And also, I mean, let's be honest. With the nature of buying vehicles right now, people know Mel Hambelton Ford Racing.
That's it.
Right. And so look at the pits.
Yep.
I mean, how many $75,000 trucks are sitting out here?
Yep.
And you know, like we were just talking about, people from across the country are looking for those vehicles, and like it's simply brand impression.
That's all it is.
Making an impact, a positive impact, which you guys do with every time you interact with a customer is, hey, yeah, no, we're going to sell you this $100 can of fuel and smile at you and talk to you, you know. But I mean, really, what we're trying to do is sell vehicles, you know. But
it's just the byproduct, right?
That's right.
It is. It's just a byproduct, and you treat them right at the track. And Phil told me this, you know, a couple years ago. We treat them right at the track. When they're ready and they want to come talk to us, we'll treat them right at the dealership too.
Absolutely.
It's just that simple.
Yeah. It's a lot easier.
We're getting.
It's a lot easier to sell a $75,000 truck to someone that's already participated in the sales experience here at the track with a set of Hoosier tires.
It's a valid point. Yeah.
Like you, trust you, and believe you before they're going to buy it.
That's it.
Yep.
That part. But anyway, gentlemen, this has been fun. We could almost make this a 2-hour show, I think. Keep going, talk about everything.
That's only if Jeff has the headset.
Yeah, absolutely. I can stand here and talk for 4 hours.
I told Scott, I said, we just made a mistake. Put the headset
Now, anyway, nice to meet you.
Yep.
Now
Appreciate
I
it.
got excited to go. Now I'm going to try to turn my TV on and watch it and see where you're at and what you're doing and all that kind of stuff. Excited for you.
Thank you.
Excited that you're here in our town. Excited to train these kids. And that's the other thing about that I've done over my try to is you got to get these young kids to come up with you. And this is a huge thing to get these kids to keep all these sports going. I don't care what's dirt track, drag racing, even the go-karts, all that stuff. You got to get these young kids involved in this sport.
Kevin, this was your first pro race right here at Bar to Bar.
Yeah, it was. That? Yeah, I do remember that.
Pro race.
Yeah, and I was in it. I was in that.
Yeah, it was 4 years ago?
2017.
Yeah.
2017?
Yep.
So 5 years ago, maybe?
Yeah.
I'll never
I do
forget it.
remember that. I do remember that. State championship, too, I think.
Yeah. Walked away with some cash.
Yeah, dude, I was like, oh, we get paid. What?
Where are you from?
Topeka, Kansas.
You are from Topeka.
Yeah.
My sister lives there.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lived there a long, long time. I worked in Topeka. 85 to 93. I was at the Pontiac Cadillac store there on Topeka Boulevard.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yes.
Kevin, we were actually talking about this the other day. Do you know of Taco Villa?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of it. Yeah.
You've never been?
Don't really think so.
Yeah. Did you ever go to Taco Villa? Are you familiar?
God, I don't know.
Okay, so it's this hole in the wall place. It's the old boy still works the counter. The guy that owns it, very similar to Bruce, jolly, just the happiest guy. Anybody that comes in is family, and it's literally just fried tacos, burritos, and then they have this thing called a thing, and it's a flat fried taco with a little bit of meat, a little bit of cheese, a little bit of sauce sprinkled on it. It's like $3. It's amazing. But it's
Taco Villa. There you go.
Yeah. I remember Taco Casa. I don't remember Taco Villa.
earlier.
Yeah, exactly, right?
It's Topeka famous. And,
Okay,
and it's,
all right.
Yeah,
Okay, now I got to ask my sister about it.
I know right away.
She probably does.
Yeah. And then I live right down the road in Lawrence where University of Kansas is. So during the summer, Kevin and I train a lot together. And then during the winter, he goes and does all his Supercross stuff, which I'm not good at indoor stuff. I never raced Supercross. I raced Arena Cross, which is we'll call it the development league of Supercross. And Kevin races inside of Supercross stadiums. My team races inside of, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Inside of football stadiums. My team races inside of hockey arenas. That's
That's
so,
the difference.
That's,
Yeah. So
that's a good analogy. I've never heard it put that way.
yeah, our tracks are 25 to 30 seconds long. Kevin's tracks are 50 to 60 seconds long. Yeah,
For
so
one
it's
lap.
One lap. Yeah.
Got to be some endurance there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And how many laps will you make?
The main events, it goes heat race is like 6 minutes plus 1 lap. LCQ is like 6 minutes plus 1 lap. The main events are 20 minutes plus 1 lap.
So it's 22.
So it don't matter. You
22, 23 laps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up to like in the shorter courses we end up having, we end up doing like 28 laps or something like that.
And all pro motocross is based off of time, not off of laps.
Time only,
Yes.
not laps.
Yeah. So we'll race. So like at outdoor nationals, it's 30 minutes plus 2 laps. And then at Supercross, 20 minutes plus a lap. And then at Loretta's, where Jordan was asking, the amateur national, it's 20 minutes plus a lap for all the
Very cool.
amateurs. Yeah.
Very cool.
Guys, we got rider meeting. I know Phil's got a lot to do. You're going racing tonight, right?
I am headed to Hayes.
Good
yeah.
for you,
Go
man.
back
Good
to
luck.
Thank
Good luck.
you, guys. Thanks for hanging out this hour. Glad to be. Nice to meet you. Good luck
Indeed.
on all your racing this year.
Appreciate
Good luck
that.
to you
Yeah,
too,
thanks
Jeff.
for having
Thanks
me
again
back.
for being
Yeah.
on board.
As always.
Bruce, again, thanks for the
Pleasure.
partnership.
Thank you, sir.
Gentlemen, go have some fun. Go do
It's gonna
some
be a good
ride.
day.
Be safe. And let's go burn up some fuel and some tires.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this for Kevin. Kevin is a self-funded motocross racer. If you are interested in being part of the Moran's Mafia,
That's a
check
valid
out
point.
Kevin on Patreon. I don't know the URL, but
Moransmafia.com.
yeah. So the cool part, it's Moranz. So the cool thing about Kevin is like where Jordan was mentioning earlier about being sponsor funded. Motocross is the same exact thing. It's an extremely expensive sport. Although it's cheaper than racing cars, still a guy like Kevin pays for everything out of pocket, or his sponsors do.
Yes.
And you can help out Kevin and other privateer racers, which I mean he's one of the top guys
That's
in the
nice of
country.
you, Jeff. Good job.
Yeah, I know. I want to give the man a hug right now. You know what I mean?
You're on national television.
Yeah, I know, right?
All right, guys. Thanks
Everybody,
again.
no, thank you very much. Have fun. And like I said, let's go burn up some tires and fuel.
Cool. All right.
Have a good weekend,
Appreciate you.
guys. Thank you.